Would you let Jeffrey Epstein watch your kids? Didn't think so. What about his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell? Hard pass. So why trust him? Mark Carney, Maxwell's friend, not yours.
Good day. Welcome to the Cory Morgan Show, coming live from the cold, wintry, wind-swept plains of Alberta on permanently ceded territory in Calgary. This is a live show. Be sure to tune in there, guys. Use that comment scroll. Check in. Share those things with me. Oh, I see Dieter's in. That should be fun. And yes, Rod Broad there checking in. Others, use it. Send those questions, the ideas my way, and I don't necessarily read them all out, but I do see them all. And it just helps remind me this show's live and that there are people on the other end of that camera. I'm not just talking to myself like I usually do when I'm driving. I got a good one today. I'm afraid my guest, I was looking forward to having him on, Laurie Carbonneau, who'd written a book called At the Trough, which is a fantastic book on corporate welfare. Had to cancel last moment. That's okay. We'll have Sean Polzer in. He's got lots to talk about. There's lots of news happening and things to discuss. And, we'll go on about other things. So let me talk about what's got me wound up today. And it's Canadian unity. It's always a consideration in federal elections. I mean, as a federation, Canada has independence movements both in Quebec and in the West. Support for those movements has had its ebbs and flows, but they can't be dismissed. I mean, in Quebec, the province came within 1% of a positive vote for separation in 1995 referenda. In Alberta, support for independence was high enough for Gordon Kessler to win a legislative seat with an independence platform, and that was back in response to Trudeau's national energy program in the 80s. But again, it shows it's real out here. Independence support in Alberta since has been on a slow boil, but it's been increasing. Polls in 2023 indicated a quarter of Albertans supported full independence from Canada. And those polls were dismissed as representing a small minority of Albertans. Look, having 1 in 4 people wanting to have a province leave a country is a rather large number of seriously dissatisfied people. And it's pretty foolhardy to dismiss those numbers. Populist movements have erupted quickly from much smaller bases of support than that. The movement for independence in Alberta could quickly turn from a smoldering discontent into an outright prairie fire if the federal election turns into a regional slugfest and we get a Liberal win. I mean, Albertans have never been comfortable with the relationship with the federal Liberals or Ottawa governance in general. I mean, in the early 1900s, Western farmers were hit with protectionist tariffs on farm implements, modeled to prop up Eastern manufacturing industries. The rail monopoly forced farmers to pay the freight for the supplies coming into them, and then they had to pay the freight for the crops going out. And while agriculture was a growing industry in the West, the producers were at a disadvantage when compared to American farmers due to Central Canadian policies. The famous Milch Cow cartoon. This is from 1915. Depicted Western farmers feverishly working to feed a giant cow astride a map. Its economy and develop this new resource, but alas, the Eastern powers had no interest in Western oil if they could continue to ship it from foreign sources. That all changed, though, when price shocks for oil hit the world in the 1970s. Suddenly, Alberta's oil that nobody wanted became Canada's oil, and Pierre Trudeau performed a vile act of regional ravishing with the National Energy Program. Alberta's economy was decimated. Even Brian Mulroney, he didn't repeal the program until the price of oil collapsed. Then Alberta was left drained, used, dejected, and yet still we were chided for being ungrateful if we dared to question the value of this federation. The Chrétien administration was little better and drew no more love from Alberta, as Chrétien candidly admitted he didn't care for dealing with Albertans while policies continued to drain the West to feed the East. And we had, of course, now the Justin Trudeau government. Trudeau Part 2, the most left-leaning anti-oil administration in the history of Canada. Westerners were reviled while efforts to construct pipelines were shunted. New oil sands developments were cancelled and money was poured into Eastern battery plants and, cricket factories, which failed. But Westerners were derided as selfish rednecks if they dared to complain about this fine woke government. While regional ire has been growing for decades, it never hit the tipping point, though, of becoming an effective independence movement. Polls showed independent support rising, but still it's never gotten quite near that 50% point, and that's because most Albertans accepted there's going to be a break in the cycle. I mean, traditionally in Canada, every 10 years or so, Eastern Canada would offer the West a breather and let another party into government for a little while. Even Laurentians realized they must flush the pipes now and then lest the corruption and entitlement become too much within the House of Commons. Westerners would grumble, but they were willing to wait until a reset occurred so they could get a new government. And with the Trudeau government managing to reach support levels as low as 17%, Westerners were breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, while Trudeau's reign was marked with corruption, ineptitude, scandals, and foreign interference, it was finally coming to an end. But alas, it's appearing nothing's going to change. All the Liberals had to do was change the face at the front of their corrupted party, and Eastern Canada fell back in love with them. The cabinet members are the same, and the new leader is just as ideologically opposed to Western industries as his predecessor. The new leader stole aspects of the platform of the Conservatives and appears to be poised to win a majority government from the East. The cycle now has broken, and Westerners are going to be facing a new reality, which is no matter how badly the Liberals may govern, Eastern Canada will keep them in power. The hope for reprieve through a term or two of new government is evaporating. The West could be facing yet another decade of abusive government dominated by Laurentian elites. Hope for change within Canada for Westerners will be lost, and they're going to have some soul-searching to do. Should Westerners resign themselves to being perpetually ruled by a distant government that only serves the East, or is it time to break free of the federation that serves Westerners so poorly? Eastern voters might not realize it today, but their self-serving voting patterns could lead to the end of Canada as they know it. You know what? Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe it's time. Change is always good. Well, that's what's got me started today. Dave, how's it going?
Good. Happy Liberation Day.
Yes, Liberation Day. I mean, liberation from what?
You're a bit of a Debbie Downer on this election, aren't you?
Well, how about this? There's going to be double-digit weather this weekend. I'm looking forward to working my bees and enjoying myself. But the election sucks balls.
And I have confidence that Carney has peaked and Polyev will still win.
Okay. Well, and I put that out on X the other day. I put it out, my prediction from back at the start of this, a week and some ago. I predict a Liberal minority.
Yeah, I saw that.
Others feel otherwise. A week into it, and some I still feel the same right now. But I mean, it doesn't mean that's what I want to see. That's just what I think is going to happen. But we still have 3 weeks of campaigning left.
That's true. Hey, are you going to keep that Indigenous opening every show?
I don't know if I remember to or not. As you know, I mean, aside from that monologue, I don't really script anything.
That is true. So, yeah, we have perhaps big news coming out of Washington. There are reports from Politico, a respected site, that Elon Musk is going to be leaving his role in DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. He's been a lightning rod, obviously, and has led to, car fires all over the place and protests and around the world. So we're keeping an eye on that. Our Sean Polzer, like I said, Politico is pretty respected. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's true.
Well, I mean, the Orange Man doesn't tend to maintain long-term relationships very often.
No, and it's lasted longer than I think everybody else thought it would. Speaking of Pierre Poilievre, he had a press thing in Toronto today where he vowed he would get rid of DEI in all universities, which I think is a winning platform, but might lose the university vote.
I don't think he had it.
Our Jen Hodgson has got a good thing up there now. It's called Promises. And it's a list of every single province, every single promise that each leader has made in various categories like education, healthcare, energy, that sort of stuff. So that'll be updated every day during the campaign. So if you're looking for what your party is standing on, it's there for you. It's really detailed, and she's done a very good job on that. Story that's breaking the website this morning is titled Pipeline Paradox by Sean. I know he's going to come in here and talk to you about it, so I don't want to, waste your time when you're going to be talking to him. But it's all about Mark Carney and his former company that he was the chair of, trying to buy a $10 billion pipeline in through the States. Meanwhile, he vowed yesterday not to cancel Bill C-69, the anti-pipeline law in Canada. So Weird, eh? And the Leach verdict, Tamara Leach, the longest mischief trial in Canadian history. Verdict coming down tomorrow morning in Ottawa, and Jen will be all over that Thursday morning. And that's it, Cory. We're all waiting in anticipation of the big orange man at 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time.
Right on, yeah. Well, it's something to watch, right? I mean, that's the maddening thing of this. I mean, okay, so people say, he's never made bones about tariffs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But it's in one day, it's out the next. It's in one day, it's out the next. I mean, just settle on something, you crazy Cheeto. I mean, we businesses have to try and plan. They can plan if they know.
Exactly.
But this lunacy has got to stop.
You've got Mark Carney huddled in the bunker in Ottawa. He's not campaigning. He's not talking to Canadian people. He's, I assume he'll have something to say this afternoon after the tariffs. But you're right. Let's get it over with. Let's figure out what's happening, and let's get back to the best life that we can, and get this election campaign going again. And that's what I'm saying. I think Carney's peaked. Now the tariffs will be set. I think people will now start focusing on the issues themselves.
We'll see. We'll certainly be covering it closely to watch the trends, and maybe I'll eat some words on election night when we do our special coverage. Or
let's hope to God you do.
Yeah, well, it won't be the first time.
No.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave.
You bet, Cory.
I'll let you back to the newsroom there. That is our news editor, Dave Naylor. And as yes, you can see, there's lots and lots of stories constantly breaking, constantly moving. This is where I nag a little bit for money, guys. This is how we stay independent. The reason we've got so many reporters on the ground working on these things, columnists, and we've got this show is because you guys have been subscribing, and I really appreciate it. If you've subscribed already, thank you very much. If you haven't, come on, guys, get on board. It's $10 a month. $100 a year, volume discounts can't be. It's just like an old newspaper subscription. Get past that paywall and get right in on those stories there. So check it out, westernstandard.news/subscription. Let's have a quick look at the comment scroll. Let's see, humorous ones from Dieter saying, supporting idea of improving higher education in Alberta by building taller schools. All right, that's fine. That's for Vicky Bayford. I believe she's running for the PPC, saying the wave is starting. We haven't, well, I know they're trying. The People's Party is out there. They're pushing. And, looking at this federal election, this has turned Canada into basically a two-party system. Now, Maxime Bernier's People's Party was never quite really threatening to win seats and spots, but it represented and still does a constituency. I still think it's important to have all those candidates out there getting different perspectives out, using the platform as a means to either you're building a party in the long term or at least addressing some issues that the other larger parties won't. But the more interesting thing than them, the PPC folks are putting out their thing is the NDP. That's a lot of what's been going on in this election. They have collapsed. I mean, they are down to a fraction of where they are. And in a first past the post system, unless they've got a few really good concentrated ridings, they could be obliterated in this election. Unimaginable. And that vote is going to the Liberals. I mean, people who were, inclined to support Social Democrats, if they were changing their votes, look, they weren't going to make the leap and jump over to the Conservatives. That's just not the way it's going to happen. And they're not going to make a comeback. Jagmeet's as lackluster and uninspiring as he's ever been, so that's not going to be going there. But it's something else, and it's not a conspiracy. It's not anybody doing anything wrong. It's just a fluke of circumstances in a lot of ways. But as Dave mentioned, Carney's taken another day off to deal with the stuff coming from south of the border, and he should, whether we like it or not. The way our system works, he is the prime minister right now. And he has to address these issues as the prime minister. It's a caretaker government, but this is pressing. But it works brilliantly for the Liberal campaign anyways, because he can look prime ministerial. He can basically practice the role whilst the campaign is going on. And it also helps him avoid those tough questions that he's having a terrible time addressing effectively on the campaign trail. So if he can keep throwing those hats on back and forth, it allows him to basically sit in the position where he's the prime minister in the government until, and Poilievre is playing the role of the official opposition, which means people are going to vote to keep that. One more comment. D-Man saying, I used to love your tweets until you stupidly waded into Ukraine. Well, if you believe the orange man who said Ukraine started it, you're the stupid one. we'll leave off on that, though, and carry on with some other stuff. We got Sean Polzer in.
Hey, Cory.
Lots of stuff to cover. I love interacting with the commenters. It's fun.
I liked your thing about the orange man.
Ah, yes.
Did you see the tweet? They had the picture of Trump looking like the Florida orange.
No, I hadn't seen that
Oh,
one.
I'll have to send it to you.
I mean, it's meme gold. I mean, there was that one, and then somebody animated it, though, where what's his name was dipping into the Cheeto bag with a brush and painting Trump while
Well, and we've had some pretty good success using Grok
Yes.
to generate.
which is a good irony. You know, Musk's platform is great for making memes and such to
Memes,
to
yes,
play
like
with.
political cartoons.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
back in the day. It's all good fun.
So, what do you got breaking today, Sean?
Well, apparently, speaking of MAGA, Elon Musk is reportedly, it's unclear whether he's being forced out or whether he's going to be stepping down from his, doji role as Trump's chief, I don't know what you call him, auditor general.
I think it was kind of a new position heading that whole thing.
No, it's a new position.
But I mean,
All right.
I've already seen some discussion online saying though that this was planned and he's giving notice. He's not actually stepping out, and I don't know yet.
Well, it's confusing. So yeah, because when Dave and I first saw it, we thought like, oh my gosh, is this April Fool's? Like maybe a day late. You know, you never know.
No.
Liberation Day, you know, the whole thing. But yeah, it appears that he only really had about what's 130 days? Is that 4 months?
Yeah, but the
4 month term.
a little more than 3. Yeah, either way.
Maybe a quarter or something like that. He was scheduled to kind of be on his way out in May or June, and it seems that this kind of just, if anything, it confirms it. We're not sure if he's stepping out immediately or if he's still going to stick around for a few more weeks or what. But yeah, it's MAGA world is quite upset by it, as you might imagine.
Well, it's a fluid situation, I guess. I mean, you know, there's no getting around it, whatever way you look at it. I mean, like him or dislike him, Trump is a big personality. I mean, he
Right.
fills a room. He's got to be difficult to work with. I mean, and he doesn't have a good record of people staying long within his office or having a favorable view of him when they're finished with him. I mean, you know,
Or
some people,
staying friends.
well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, after the fact,
You
I
know,
mean, that's
never
just the
mind the
nature
work
of it.
they
And
do.
he's you know, again, some people can say, well, that's just the consequences of being a strong leader who takes the fair enough. But you know,
True.
people don't stick long with them. And Musk though he's paid a terrible price.
Well, he's been around longer than most.
Yeah,
You know, and then all of Trump's other ex-cohorts wind up being commentators on CNN.
yeah. Well, that's just if you want to give Trump the finger, go on CNN.
Yeah, go on CNN.
But I mean, it's just, I mean, it's not, you know, Musk could have his wealth drop down to 10% of what it is. It's not like he's ever going to have to worry about filling the fridge to eat. But I mean, his association with Trump has most definitely caused Tesla, you know, a terrible tumble in the shares.
Unbelievable. Well, they're up about 5% this morning. So,
Okay.
so whether or not, you know, maybe that's a stage thing, you know, buy on rumor, you know, sell on news, right? But yeah, his shares are up about 5% today, and they're down well over 30 since the start of the year, and probably about 50% since the election.
Well, it's just a risk taken. If you're going to associate yourself with a politician, again, left or right, as a business leader, you're going to take some fallout for that. I mean, you know, usually you kind of, that's why a lot of business people speak behind the scenes. It's not necessarily being sneaky. It's just that, hey, if you do that, your business should try to remain somewhat nonpartisan. Like when I owned my pub, even, I had a couple of things, people saying, we want, you know, you're conservative, Cory, can we have a fundraiser in your pub for this or that? And some of the, I was getting, you know what, like my customers are a mix. They're buying drinks and food. I don't want to mix my politics with the pub. Sit at the front of the bar and rant at me. That's what we do. But
Sure.
I'm not going to dip into that because I could really mess with my customer base.
Right. You know, and I think there's a question here too. So last night you had these special elections, and Musk's, you know, he poured a lot of money into Wisconsin, into this judicial race, and wound up losing, you know, by quite a lot. We were talking about some of these other candidates in Florida. They, a lot of Republicans were reelected, but with slimmer margins than they even had in November. And some of the same, I don't know what they call them. In U.S., they call them districts. We call them ridings.
Yeah.
So, you know, there might have been a sense that, you know, Musk is becoming kind of that he could drag down Trump's popularity, because Trump still remains relatively popular compared to where he was at this point in 2016
He's got a
or
solid
17.
constituency of support in the USA. I mean, people can't deny
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean, he's got 200 million voters either way,
Yeah.
right? So there's a sense that maybe Musk is a little more unpopular than he is. You know, we were laughing. Would Trump fire Musk on The Apprentice? You know, you're fired. You know, or would Musk try to take over the show? You know, like Schwarzenegger did when Trump stepped down.
Well, and I mean, I just wonder. And Musk has always stayed out of that. He stuck to Doge, which is fine. But like the whole tariff thing and everything, again, most business people, most economists see tariff politics as just foolish. They're not good business. They're not good
Well,
policies.
especially when your major factories in China, like all the Teslas that are being sold outside of the U.S. are made in China, and they were already 100% tariff. And so I think Musk was probably hoping that he was going to get an exemption, you know, just like every other, you know, the whiskey distillers in Kentucky and the pork producers in Michigan.
Well, and the carve out messes and everything. I mean, that's part of what's coming today at 2:00. We don't know. Everybody doesn't know. I mean, is it going to be all? Is it going to be none? Is it going to be? You just don't know. And we don't know if tomorrow we might wake up in the morning, have his morning Ovaltine, and say, you know what, I'm going to
made a deal.
get rid of all of them.
Deal of all
Yeah.
time, the biggest, yeah.
It's just the well, what is part of what's really taken me off is his external threat, as far as that goes, is a large part. It's been such a gift to the Liberals who were on the ropes.
Oh gosh.
So-
like, I mean, you would talk about unintended consequences. Like I don't, you know, the question is, there's going to be conspiracy theories going around whether or not he actually tried to get Carney elected.
I don't think so. I don't think he gives a rat's flying anything about Canada. I mean, you know, we just happen to be next door and there's policy and so on, but I don't think he could care less, which may or may not happen with our politics.
You know, I saw, I think it was on YouTube. It was a video that he did, an interview that he gave to like who was the guy, Larry King, on CNN back in the 80s, and they were talking about Canada. Oh, Canada is wonderful. I do business with them. I really like them. They're, you know, when he was building that skating rink in New York.
Yeah.
So it seems to be kind of a turnaround. Like
Change on the dime. Well, let's get back domestic then on somebody changing. I mean, we've had Mark Carney campaigning and the rest with elbows up. Team Canada, we are going to get our products to the coast. Mm-hmm. But we're going to keep the legislation that makes it impossible to get our product to the coast.
Yeah, not only that, that was kind of funny too, because I was writing up the story. So Brookfield, you know, everybody knows the company he had. He obviously owns a lot of shares of it.
Yeah,
whether
and
or
he
not
chaired
he's still
it.
the
So,
chairman.
you see, he had
you know, he maybe doesn't have influence on the policy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're buying up the largest gasoline products pipeline in the U.S. It goes from Texas all the way up to New York. It's considered like an essential piece of U.S. infrastructure. It was the same one that went under the cyber attack a couple years back, and I think the government eventually wound up paying these guys $2 billion basically to get it back up in service before they had major. Anyway, so Brookfield is buying it. Caisse de Placement du Québec, you know, the public, their version of the CPP, owns about 17% of this thing. You know, worth, you know, a couple $2 billion.
Well, I mean, to be fair, this gets hard because in the business world, and that shows our integrated economies. I mean, a large business leader, a banker, somebody like Carney,
Sure.
you're going to have interests all over the place. I find it, you know, fair enough, he might have just set aside all decision making, but something like buying a pipeline like that, those decisions were made and discussed months and months ago.
Yeah,
he already
absolutely.
was a part of that and knew about it.
Well, he was a co-chair of the, so Brookfield has two $25 billion private equity funds based in Bermuda that he would have co-chaired back at the time. So I don't know if Colonial would have been on the list. But the thing is I'm sitting here tapping it up, and Jen is covering the press conference on TV on CBC, and they asked him specifically, would you repeal Bill C-69, right? No. Well, gee, isn't that great? You're buying a freaking pipeline in the
Competitors'
US.
pipeline.
Yeah,
And
you just
shutting down us.
Yeah,
Yes.
gosh, you know.
So it reeks. And I mean, there's some of the thing,
and I
has
had
the
to
leopard
redo the
changed
story.
his
I had to
spots
redo
or
the story. I
not?
was like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
Did he just say that, you know, after he's telling Danielle Smith that we're going to be building cross-country pipelines? And like,
I mean, because look, anybody who knows C-69, and I'm seeing the fart catchers for the Liberals online trying to make the excuses already. Oh, it doesn't stop pipelines. Yes, it does. It stops them in their tracks. It's a killer, and it was modeled to be a killer. I mean, it was a cowardly way for an ideological prime minister to stop energy development without outright banning it. Just
Right.
regulate it to death. Make
Well,
it,
and I actually had to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
And read the summary of the enabling legislation or whatever it was when it passed in 2017. And you're right. It doesn't specifically mention pipelines. Like it talks about power lines. It talks about navigable waters. It mentions the tanker ban is a separate bill, but it kind of reinforces the tanker ban. So you have a lot of ways of sitting there and saying that, it's not specifically about pipeline, but really it only applies to about 25 kilometers. You know what I mean? Northern Gateway would have been like what? 2,500 kilometers.
well, it set that bar and sent the signal to any companies who were thinking of starting the arduous, already ridiculous process of trying to get a pipeline approved and built in Canada that we're going to rag the puck until you go broke, just like Kinder Morgan, just like Energy East, just like the rest. So they don't officially kill them. They did kill Northern Gateway, but that's their way of just saying, don't waste your time because we're not going to.
Well, and it's wrapped up in an environmental assessment. Like,
Yeah.
what struck me, like, because I'd never actually read the thing before, was basically how broad it was. Like, if you're just going to repeal Bill C-69, there's so many other pieces of legislation that are kind of dependent on it. Like, it won't be a simple task.
Well, I mean, nothing's on the go anyway, so you can repeal it and get to work on filling those holes. I mean, that's what gets to me. Let's quit pretending we don't know the processes and what we have to do to get a major project done. I mean, we have so much redundancy and so many studies and so many licenses and so many consultations. Like,
Sure.
come on, guys.
Well, and you want to go back to Carney, and this is kind of unrelated to pipelines, but when they were talking about French language law being a potential trade barrier, right? So Carney, what did he say? He wasn't going to put French language on the table in negotiations, even though he's appealing the language law to the Supreme Court because he thinks it's unconstitutional. So this pipeline thing seems to be kind of in that kind of zone as well.
I think what's hitting, and it's nothing new for politics, he's just saying whatever the hell he thinks he has to say to get elected.
Which isn't very much. I mean,
And that's not new, but the frustrating part is it seems to be working.
I mean, have we heard a direct policy that he's actually going to implement on any of this stuff, other than the fact he's going to take a phone call from Trump after the election, assuming he gets reelected, right? Or he hasn't even been elected, so assuming he gets.
And that was an interesting outcome with it's just such a bizarre election. Everything's gotten so divisive, so tied up. I mean, it did expose kind of the hypocrisy where Premier Smith was pilloried for daring to go down when we didn't even have a prime minister, technically. I mean,
Right.
And doing what she could to negotiate in Mar-a-Lago or whatnot.
Right.
And then
Just recently in Florida here too.
Carney has a phone call with Trump and Trump says it was very, very productive. Now, he's a hero.
Right.
Danielle's a bitch.
Yeah.
Carney's a hero.
Because he picked up the phone.
Yeah, like, hold on. I mean, you could...
Which is what he should have done. I mean, really.
Well, you're the new prime minister. It's always been a tradition. I know that we've rarely had a prime minister elected during such a tense time between countries, but it's usually a tradition. You're going to speak with your neighboring leader first thing once your
biggest trading partner takes 80% of your stuff.
Yeah, it seems to me. Now I'm trying to go back when Trump first got elected. Didn't he kind of offer a middle finger to Canada, and he met with the president of Mexico first, when usually it used to be Canada? So
I think that was W.
There's
But W's from Texas,
But there are little diplomatic snubs and games that get played too, and every side does it to a degree. But
yeah.
It's just Carney. I mean, well, again, it's as bad as Trump in some senses. If you're going to speak in vague terms, we can't get things done. Like, you've got to start laying down what these regulations are. Trump won't say what the damn tariffs are. Carney's, well, I support pipes, but I don't. And
Yeah. Another weird thing, and I saw it on an American news network, and I believe it might have been CNBC. Carney is regurgitating these old French sovereigntist slogans in English during his speeches. Something about being strong from the living room or something. Apparently, it's a literal translation of a French sovereigntist slogan that goes like way back to the 1950s.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I had to watch American TV to figure that out, that he's talking out of both sides of his face.
Well, that's been an interesting thing too, though, with our domestic legacy outlets have been rather nice to Mr. Carney. So
they cut off Pierre like in mid-sentence today.
Yeah.
On the CBC. Jen's scribbling down the quote, and it's like, what? he pulled the camera from
Oh,
him
yeah.
right in the middle of
I mean, some of it's a field, I guess, that Polyev seeded. I mean, when he said pretty clearly, I get in, I'm going to defund the CBC, they were pretty well motivated in making sure he doesn't, but I don't know if they made it much worse. I mean, the CBC weren't going to throw him any love, even if
Well,
he said
apparently Polyev is putting up an online ad on a CBC platform like every 15 seconds. So you're like, oh, okay, you're going to defund the CBC, but after you've spent how much on advertising, just supporting them during an election.
bizarre world. But I mean, he needs to reach. So that's been part of the issue
very
going on
Canadian.
too. Is it's the older people that are suddenly going back to the love affair with liberals, and the younger people aren't. But there's been discussion of that. Older people still watch legacy media. They still watch CTV Global, CBC. They're getting that view that cuts off people like Polyev mid-sentence and says Prime Minister Carney 10 times an hour, whereas young people are watching streaming media and getting a different perspective.
Yeah. It seems to me too, and that thought kind of hit me, and might be a bit of an aside, but really this Liberal vote was a Conservative vote, right? Because it's a scare vote. People are scared of what's going to happen, and so they're almost willing to park it with. I don't know if it's a vote for Carney. I think it's kind of a vote for status quo. I mean, Liberals have been in power for 75 of the last 100 years.
They tend to be, and I mean, I wrote that in my column last week in a sense too, though. When there's a threat from outside, an external threat, people rally around the leadership. And even if they didn't like him, but they said, we'll set aside the differences until that's done. And, in the meantime, we need to be all unified. Unfortunately, that leadership rally is in the middle of a federal election.
Right.
So,
well, and I mean, he's been in charge of the party, a week? So, I mean, basically everybody that was there before, like the whole cast and crew, that dragged Trudeau down. I mean, regardless of whatever you think of Trudeau, I mean, he did not have a very strong bench, it's like the Oilers when you've only got Draisaitl and McDavid, right?
It's the same circus. They just changed the ringmaster.
Yeah.
The clowns are all the
They
same.
haven't had any chance to really go back in there and kind of fix the issues that were in the party for the last 6-7 years, right?
Which makes the outcome bleak, but we will see, I guess.
Carney has not really articulated a single policy.
No. Well,
other than the emissions cap, which wasn't his to begin with.
if being vague works for him, he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to your desk and finding more business stories to
Elon.
hammer up. You see what's happening with Elon this week or not or whatever. And,
Occupy Mars.
oh, God.
Which goes back to our April Fool's story. Did you see that?
I didn't.
That
I was
Dave
looking
wrote?
for it.
Oh, it was great.
I should have. Oh, no. I meant to. I was looking.
It's timely. It turned out to be newsworthy.
Okay. Well, I'm going to. Because I was looking. I knew it was every year we do one, and I was busy that day.
No, this one was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks, Sean. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Great. Thanks, Cory.
Thanks. So, there's our business and energy reporter, Sean Polzer. And he's always covering lots and getting some of those scoops. And it has been a big story, the pipelines. Is Carney supporting him? Is he not? Does he support C-69? Well, no, apparently not. Joe Mills pointing out, saying, I'm 67, I've always voted conservative. Yeah, not every older person is suddenly swinging liberal these days, but a lot of them are. The demographic, it used to be traditionally, when you look at the vote breakdowns, it tended to be the younger people tended to go a little more progressive and the older people tended to stick conservative. I know from being at a lot of meetings, Reform Party meetings, back when I was a young person with my nice mullet, I was the baby in the room in those places. Among the gray hair and Geritol. And it's changed. It's shifted and it's different. It's weird. And Joe also pointing out, saying, hoping the election turnout is massive. Yeah, we always want that for the sake of democracy. But again, remember, and another commenter, fuck you, it looks like. Oh, geez, you got me on that one. Nice. I'm going to read out the commenters' names without being careful. Either way, need to get out the youth vote. And yeah, that's a hard thing. That's always been a challenge. It's been a challenge for progressives that the youth vote are also the hardest ones to get out to vote. So that's why often conservatives are overrepresented or underrepresented in polls, in the sense that, the poll shows 44% would vote conservative, and then the election comes along and it turns out 53% voted. Well, the difference was, if you're polling everybody across the demographics, the older folks are far more inclined to get up and go vote, and they traditionally were with the conservatives. The younger ones who would speak out, but there's a good concert on that night, or there's a party down the road, or whatever, they're much more easily distracted, much less inclined to take the time and trouble and go out to vote. It's just the way it is. those stats can be proven out just for electoral turnout. It's not a matter of bias. So, but it doesn't bode well now when the Conservatives are apparently doing better with younger people than older. I mean, they want to do well with everybody, but you get more strength out of getting those older voters out. And this, here's an interesting point made, and I've said this before from Dieter, my most annoying, yet he makes good points on X and so on, and he has a sense of humor, which I can respect. He can still piss me off at times too, but all the same, he said, I'd love to have a progressive conservative and a reform party again on the right side of the aisle. He says Pierre is an empty suit, and I have to wonder who's filling it. I'm a little more optimistic about Pierre, but something I have said before, and it's true, one of the most conservative governments we ever had, actually, was the Jean Chrétien government with the reform opposition breathing down his neck. I mean, it was, Chrétien and Martin balanced the budget. And we got to remember that was riding a wave of everybody balancing the budget back then. We were still very high interest rates compared to now. But people were sick of debts. They wanted to see them paid down. So Chrétien paid the debt down. He made the cuts. He did what had to be done at the time. I think the Conservatives could have done better, but whatever. It was definitely a conservative government at its time. And, Roy Romanow also, as an NDP, managed to balance the budget in Saskatchewan. So it was a different period altogether. But it's a valid point. Now, again, I'm a regionalist. You know where I'm looking at things and going, and I'm frustrated. I'm not kidding. As I said in the opening monologue, I got a feeling, depends on the tone of this election, and as well as, again, after all this, if we get a liberal, particularly a liberal majority, we're going to see a flare-up of independent sentiment like we haven't seen since the 80s. There's no doubt about that. The frustration. I mean, come on. How do you fall for such a quick switch? I mean, it's like Sean was talking about. It's like Dave was talking about. Sure, Carney's a new person, but it's all the same people around him. It's all the main core planks and policies. Why do you expect something to change? This government was so bad, you were barely willing to, 1 in 5 people willing to support the Liberals only a few weeks ago. And suddenly almost half are ready to take it on again. I mean, you do feel like, the person who's abused in a relationship, when the abuser comes crawling back, I promise I've changed, I've different this time. And then, oh, okay, I'll take you back. Well, guys, they don't change. You got to change the person. And in this case, you got to change more than the person. You got to change the party. That's kind of what I was talking about in my monologue. We accept that the vast majority of years in Canada are governed by federal Liberal governments. They're the natural governing party. That's who Central Canada loves, and that's the way our system works, and that's where the population is. We're going to get a predominantly Liberal set of governments. But we need to cycle them out now and then. It's the only thing that keeps us sane, keeps us in business a little bit. And if we're looking at 10 more years of these jackasses, no, the West is not going to be thrilled with this at all. It's not like the rest of the country has to be wagged by the Western tail, but just keep it in mind. We've had enough. Laurie Carter making another point. Carter isn't new. He's been involved for years. Exactly. I mean, there's a picture I used in my column last week, showing Trudeau and Carney sitting together on a stage back in 2017, I believe it was. I mean, they've been tied at the hip. They've been tight. They're of the same government. He was advising Trudeau throughout that. We know that Trudeau wasn't exactly a deep economic thinker or deep thinker on much of anything. I mean, come on. The deepest he'd get in thinking is trying to spell words in his alphabet cereal when he's watching the Saturday morning cartoons when his maids brought it in for him. Carney is scary. He's smarter, but he's the same ideologue. And that ideology hurts the West badly. And look at it. Look at the things falling apart. I was looking forward to getting Mr. Carbonneau on. I hope I can get him, with some of the things of the corporate welfare. And hey, Conservatives are guilty of it too. I loathe corporate welfare on all levels. And Alberta did it brutally with MagCan and Novotel and a number of things. Conservative governments pouring billions of tax dollars into business ventures that almost always go bust because it's crony capitalism, it's garbage, and they rip you off. Well, we've had that now with battery plants out east, a cricket plant, as I said, stuff like that. That's not going to change once Carney gets in. That's that same ideology. That's the reason you've got to flush the pipes. You got to get the cronies out. You got to clean them out and get some fresh faces. Everybody talks like it's going to be the end of the world when one government gets in or another gets in. The reality is in Canada, the Conservatives and the Liberals are not extremely far apart. They're pragmatists once they get in, and they'll shift to where they think things need to go. And they can both be prone to some inside dealing. I mean, again, the Mulroney government towards the end was getting pretty ugly with some of those Airbus and other affairs going on. Chrétien government, Trudeau government. And that's why you've got to change them out now and then. So if we don't change out the Liberals this time, it's going to be bad. And no, not just for the West. It's going to be for Canada. And this is stuff with Brookfield. Yeah, what's this? Brookfield entities registered to Bermuda building that houses a bike shop. Like, it's old politics tied into the government. Crony capitalism. And it's bad for us all over the place. We're going to see what's happening. And that's why, again, we see media. It's in a place of flux, right? Legacy media is dying. It's nowhere near where it used to be. And outlets like ours are rising. We're doing all right, thanks to you guys, again, subscribing and advertising and bringing on models where we're streamlined. We can do these things on a better budget than other outlets can. I mean, there's shortcomings with smaller outlets and things too, but that's the nature of it. Now, subsidies have been pouring into the legacy outlets, and they know that if anybody's going to cut those subsidies, it's going to be Polyhalf. So yeah, they've got an inherent need to keep the Liberals in power, particularly CBC, which already wasn't exactly conservative friendly to begin with. And then looking at some of these things, just a side note, a little bit of a circus politics, because it did get a lot of clicks. It's part of the fun. It's clickbait. There's the risks with smaller outlets. Okay, you're more inclined to jump into some of those smaller issues and try and grab those clicks. But for folks, Rachel Gilmore, an interesting character online, progressive blowhard. She had a somewhat promising looking potential career as a reporter with Global, but she kind of messed things up and blew that, got them sued, got fired, moved on to a couple of other places, got canned from those. But she's very outspoken and polarizing and stirs folks up online a lot. And she managed to get herself another job. She got on with CTV as a fact checker. Now, this is a consequence getting back onto the Trump administration from years ago. I mean, politicians have always been full of crap. We know that. That's nothing new to us. But he really brought it to a whole new level. He really hit new heights in BSing. And some people with supporters just shrug it off. Oh, Trump just says things. Well, yeah, but I don't want people in such positions of power to so quickly lie to us on things. So it led to fact-checking happening in a lot of media outlets. And honest media outlets, if they'd have a debate, they would show, the Democrat versus the Republican. And if it was Trump, I mean, the Democrat would lie 12 times in the debate and Trump would lie 50 times or something. They're both lying, just one more than others. So either way, it brought about this whole role. I want to get to where it went there, Jacqueline. Yeah, with a commenter I'm responding to said that CTV let Gilmore go, and that's the truth. You want to start looking at these politicians because a lot of them have started taking on BSing, and media outlets want to actually just check and say, well, is what they're saying true? And give a list. So it's a good segment. You should have a segment, fine, where you're going to check the facts of what the politician said. But if you're going to have somebody in that role, they should be the most balanced, impartial reporter you've got. They should be somebody who's just looking at checking the facts and trying to clarify and present those. Rachel Gilmore was not that. She's hyper-partisan. She's a heavily attacks the conservatives at every possible opportunity. She's been caught in full BS, including even with myself when she lied online because she was putting in complaints about a podcast I appeared on. She said, I never emailed the Western Standard. And then I posted the email she'd sent to the Western Standard. Oh, well, yeah, man, we should fact check you. Hey, Rachel? Either way, CTV fired her after one episode. Yes, she made it through one episode. Now, what was CTV thinking in hiring her in the first place, though? Why, if you were going to have the role of fact-checking, did you pick up somebody so biased and so polarizing? I would be just as bad in that position. Why? Because I'm an opinion guy. I've been putting opinions out and stirring things up, and I've got my own personal bias, which is part of being an opinion writer, having an opinion show. Thus, I'm inappropriate for that role. It doesn't mean I have no role. I just don't have a role as a fact-checker. Yet some luminaries at CBC thought it was a smart idea to put Rachel Gilmore in that role. What the hell were you clowns thinking? Welcome again to watching legacy media kick itself in the nuts. Either way, she made it through one episode. Rachel looks bad out of this. CTV looks bad out of this. She's online playing martyr and a victim and so on, saying it was cancel culture that got her fired after one episode of the show. That wasn't the case. I mean, some people were pretty crabby when they discovered she's going to be on as a fact checker on CTV, but it wasn't cancel culture. It was somebody in CTV probably looking at it and scratching their head saying, what, you put her where? I mean, come on, guys. Winter's gray, just to wrap things up a bit. Why should we have to have fact checkers? If you report the truth, you shouldn't have to. Where's their morals? How sad. Well, it's not, well, the media's got to be fact checked sometimes on a lot of things as well, and so on. No, ideally, we shouldn't have to have people fact checking politicians and breaking it down. The default should be the truth out of politicians, but that comes down to that woulda, coulda, shoulda. What's the old saying? And I'm probably going to brutalize it, paraphrasing, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth even gets its pants on, or something like that, or even gets out of bed. So politicians have learned it's just easier to BS, and people will believe your untrue point, and you've done, the damage is done, even if the retraction comes later, right? Remember, when there's BS in the media, yeah, big headline on something like that, and the retraction's gonna be way back at the paper, a little paragraph, oh, sorry, that was incorrect. Doesn't always happen, but it does happen. Either way, crazy times. We've got a lot of election ahead of us. Tune in to the pipeline tonight. There's going to be a panel with me and Nigel and Derek, and we'll cover a few more issues as they come up. The other shows are coming. Nigel has his. Sean's got another show coming up. We're really expanding our digital broadcasts. This Friday at 11, I'm going to be on for another couple of hours live, mostly on a federal election focus again, and we'll cover some more issues and have some more guests. So thank you very much for tuning in today, guys. I really appreciate it. Yell at me on X if you want to yell further, and I will see you all on Friday.